We had the best economy in the history of our country in my first term, and we're blowing it out now. We're blowing it away now. And despite our little diversion to the lovely country of Iran, lovely place, but we had to do that because otherwise bad things could happen, really bad things. So we've sent out, and I think you're going to see some incredible results.
It has been almost 50 days since the conflict in Iran began, and the president says he is winding it down. The Iranians are making concessions, and investors now betting big on a rebound. Welcome to the Big Money Show. I'm Taylor Riggs, along with my co-hosts David Asman, Brian Brenberg, Jackie DeAngelis, and with us for the entire 2 hours, if he decides to stay.
Yeah, if I decide to stay.
Fox Business contributor Marcus Lemonis.
Thank you.
So the latest news from the Strait of Hormuz is driving this elation that you see within equity markets. The Iranian foreign minister posting on X just hours ago, saying that the Strait of Hormuz is now open through a coordinated Iranian route. Ships are moving and oil is flowing. President Trump says Iran agreed to turn over enriched material and is open to flying to Islamabad himself to close the deal.
We have a very good relationship with Iran right now, as hard as it is to believe. And I think it's a combination of about 4 weeks of bombing and a very powerful blockade. The blockade is maybe more powerful than the bombing, if you want to know the truth.
The market has been pricing that in all week, and they might be right. So happy Friday. Marcus, we want to differentiate the economy from the markets. The markets right now are on fire. Pricing this thing is over, and you see that with oil. I'm wondering, though, if you agree with what the president says, that economic blockade was, in effect, more powerful than the military campaign. And if that's what brought Iran to a table, can we say that we're in the all clear, especially when it comes to the economy and the fundamentals?
I don't know that we have a great relationship with Iran, but maybe we do relative to the last couple of weeks. Remember that the market is a forward-looking statement of what they think is going to happen, not today. And so the economy still is not in great shape, but people believe that it's going to be in great shape. And when you talk about what that strait can do, it isn't just polarizing for Iran, it's polarizing for the rest of the world because of the 4 Bs of where it shows up. The barrel price shows up in gas prices, the basket price in terms of how it costs us to buy things, all of the transportation that goes along with it, and then how that ultimately affects the balance sheet. So when you start to see oil come back down, and I think we debated this a week ago with somebody that was in this chair, if oil continues to not have the pressure, it'll get back into the 70s and potentially into the 60s. Where does all that flow? It flows into the basket, into the balance sheets of all these businesses. That's why the market, I'm surprised the market's not up even more right now, because it's oversold in a lot of cases.
Brian, I want to talk about the market, but I thought about you this morning. In my inbox, I had a note saying, here's a readout from NATO countries led by Emmanuel Macron. They're organizing a meeting to figure out how to open the strait. But then the next email 2 seconds later was the True Social post saying Iran's opened the strait.
Yeah, we got it. We
got it. And it just shows that, Trump was thanking the Gulf nations for their hard work and basically told NATO, go home, you haven't been helping us. You've been talking a lot about the reorganization, the realignment, how we're thinking about geopolitical risks and thanks but no thanks to the French in particular.
I think the success we're seeing here, and that I hope we continue to see, is a function of all kinds of realignments that Trump has made that his critics hate, okay? So let's start with who's in the region, right? All the left, all his critics made fun of him. They derided him when he went to the Middle East and visited with UAE and visited with Saudi Arabia, right? That has borne huge fruit in this conflict. They hate the fact that he has made energy the priority in America, not climate change, right? That has helped us immensely in this conflict. And maybe they hate most of all the fact that we have a Secretary of War who prioritizes the warrior over woke. And that has paid dividends in spades in this conflict. Everything he's done to realign us energy-wise, national defense-wise, and geopolitically has borne fruit with Iran. And the left hates it, which is why they continually predict this is going to be a huge failure. And if you understand what the president's doing, you could say, no, I think he's got his priorities right. This might work out after all.
I don't know, Jackie. Part of me gets worried that I get in over my skis. I said yesterday I was so excited about the equity markets, that the economy could boom. But then I look at Atlanta Fed GDP. We're still at a very measly 1.3%. We were talking about no tax on tips, which has been great. But if all of that tailwind has been sort of this headwind of higher energy prices, then I get worried. Do you feel like we're getting ahead of ourselves and claiming that there is the deal when these have been fragile ceasefires at best, when we feel like it's open, but I don't know, Iran can change their mind, we can change our mind? How do you read this?
I don't think we're ahead of our skis.
Okay.
And on GDP, we had a really cold winter. We had a government shutdown. We had a war. So a lot of uncertainty in that picture and reasons that people would pull back, reasons those numbers would be low. I fully expect them to be more robust as we move forward, as does the market. Now, we are 6 minutes and 9 seconds into the show, and you did not bring up the 10-year yield, which is down today.
Okay, now that you talk about it.
Yields are down. People are buying equities. They are buying United States treasuries. They are selling oil down to, I saw it this morning, I think it was $82 a barrel. We're right in that range right now. They are buying America. And when you see President Trump in Las Vegas, the way he was speaking, the way he was standing on the lawn answering questions, he just acts like this is all in a day's work for him. I mean, throughout this entire conflict, I've been amazed at his presence, how he's handled it. He's been multitasking. He's been all over the place and handling this massive issue at the same time. I did not expect the resolution to look like this. And I mean, I knew he was playing 3D chess, but my ability to see the way he sees, the vision that he has, could not see this coming with the Strait. When he closed the Strait, when our forces went in there, Iran realized they were totally boxed in. And China realizes they're boxed in to a certain degree as well. And so I just think that this is beyond phenomenal with respect to what he's accomplished here. I still have some worries. I think they are talking about giving that B-52 uranium dust that was created voluntarily. They would hand that over. But what about everything else? And when he says we have a good relationship with Iran, I think things are better than they have been, certainly. But I don't trust anybody tethered to this regime in any way, shape, or form. So I still think there are going to be next steps here. I'm not necessarily sure what they are. But he has definitely reassured the market that this is not getting worse. It's going to get better.
I hear your 10-year. I want to raise you a chart that I'll put out on social, and then, David, you go wherever you want. It was interesting. The chart I read this morning said hedge funds own a record high 8% of U.S. Treasuries. So effectively, any unwind or unleveraging that they have to do could create or exacerbate some of the big moves that we've seen in the yield market. So I think you're right to point that out, where it wasn't as simple as yields are climbing because maybe there's more supply or maybe we're afraid of America. There were maybe some other technical issues going on, and it's nice to see some of those fears or maybe some of those positions unwind to help calm out the global markets.
Well, to reference somebody who was on here yesterday in this particular seat, what Charlie Gasparino's got friends with a lot of hedge funds. He's known them for decades, not just years, but decades. And he said that they are leading the spear in buying into this market right now. They are the ones who think it's very simple. Trump won. And America, to your point, Jackie, America won. This is the first oil shock, and I think I'm older than everybody here, but this is the first oil shock that I've lived through where the oil sheiks haven't had the last word, the first word and the last word in terms of causing a crisis and bailing us out of a crisis. This time, it was America. America took the lead. They took the lead in stopping Iran from getting a nuclear bomb. They took the lead in blockading the Strait, which was an absolutely brilliant measure, because what that blockade did was it brought all of our allies and enemies together with us. It pulled China into what we were doing in solving the problem of Strait. Even the Europeans, as feckless as they have been over the past couple of weeks, if not months, they're saying, "Oh, I'll come in now." Yeah, right. After and Trump essentially said, "You know what? You get out of here. We don't need your help anymore." And he's right. It is about America. America is the one that's calling the shots for the world in terms of energy, which is, as we know, because of AI and everything else that's going on, is probably the key most component of any business plan that any business in the world has right now, is how do I get enough energy for what I'm doing? So it is America leading, and Trump won. Also, the Arab nations won, because they've been trying to get rid of the Iranian regime for decades, since essentially 1979, when all this began, when they took our American hostages from the embassy. So the Arab nations with the United States now are an incredible alliance that surpasses any other alliance we have. I think it is very simple. As Charlie said yesterday, the hedge fund guys are saying it. Trump won, and the market's the big winner.
I know I want you to jump in, and also one final thought to you. I think we had you on Monday. The war started February 28 on a Saturday. We had you on that Monday.
Yeah.
You're born in Lebanon.
Yeah.
Now that you've come, what are we, 6, 7 weeks? How do you feel? How does the consumer feel March 1, that Monday, and now 6 weeks later, mid-April?
I think the exuberance that we're all feeling is properly placed. But on the four corners of that exuberance, one of those corners, I don't know that I totally agree with Jackie on, which is the 10-year Treasury is still a problem when it's over 4, because it limits a lot of other things. What I like about what's happening now is the transitory nature of how inflation looked bigger than it really was because of energy. Some of that's going to go away. We still need other things to go away. And until that housing market picks up, until people feel the confidence of seeing it have a 3.999, whatever it is, under 4, and having those mortgage rates just under 6, that's what's going to set things loose.
But don't you think we're going to get there? We seem to be on the path,
yes,
right? We had
I
a
do,
little bit of a stall
but
from the war, but I think we can get there pretty soon.
Yes, I do, but I just want to temper it. The consumers and companies still have products on their shelves and things that need to be bought at a higher cost. We need that all to flush out. If the 10-year can just continue to just slowly ratchet down, then I think you'll see the equity market.
Before the conflict, before the conflict, mortgage rates had been moving lower to places we had never seen them before. So I have hope, but I hear you. We got to clean out some of the inventory and move things along.
I think the consumer's feeling pretty good right now, and I think this weekend they're going to be feeling even better.
Okay, we'll watch. I want to talk about Netflix. Take a look at this. You guys, I don't know. You help me out here. Shares are down 9%.
It's because I canceled my account.
Oh, it's all
me too.
Jackie.
Me too.
Why? Prices?
Because it's the same. No, it's just the same old stuff. It's the same old woke stuff. I don't need that. I can get it from broadcast television for free. Forget it.
You tell him, David.
Yeah.
So let's go through the earnings quickly.
Really,
frankly,
David?
Yeah, really.
You just feel that fired up
They're
this morning?
the same script over and over and over again. It's nonsense. I'll go for Paramount every day of the week.
Oh.
Every day of the week.
That better be
New
your
stuff
stock that
you
you're
see on
tracking
Paramount.
right now.
And that's I'll take the ads even. I don't need Netflix.
Okay.
So overall, beat Wall Street expectations in the top and the bottom line. The problem is the bottom line had a big jump because they had that termination fee from the breakup of the Warner Brothers Discovery deal that they ended up not going through with. Maybe more importantly, the co-founder, Reed Hastings, the current chairman, saying that he's done when his chairmanship expires and he's walking away. I don't know, Marcus, if this is that like
That's
the
it.
big founder who...
That's it right now.
Yeah.
I would say it's a phenomenal company. And whether you like the programming or not, they have a really good stronghold on that streaming service business. And they're starting to expand to other live events and comedy and a bunch of other things. But when a founder decides to leave a business, it doesn't mean that the business is bad. It means there's uncertainty and people don't know what that's going to look like. Is the next guy or gal going to change the vision of the company? And so that uncertainty plays in. For me, it's a buy day. It's a buy day. Down 10%, it's a free buy day. I know David doesn't want to buy it, but a lot of young people like it. And there are lots of alternative programs. You don't have it, so how do you know?
Because I've been watching it up until recently.
Would you cancel it yesterday?
No, but recently, within the past few weeks.
So I still think economically it performs like a machine. And when they walked away from that transaction, I think it also represented discipline. I appreciated that they didn't just chase it at all costs.
He's a great businessman. or he was until he announced.
And so him
retirement.
potentially leaving is what causes people to be a little,
Interesting.
yeah, a little.
I canceled
nervous.
my subscription a couple years
So does nobody have it except myself?
Brian has it.
No, I canceled it.
I
Whoa.
reactivate it occasionally if there's something specific that I want to watch. But then I just find if I do watch that one thing for weeks or months, I'm not using it at all. So for me, it was a monetary
4
decision.
out of 5 people right here.
Yeah.
Still,
Yeah, I'm
you're
holding
the last
in. I'm
holdout,
staying
Marcus. You
strong.
got this.
Yeah.
Coming up, the White House just put an exact number on the housing crisis. We'll be telling you what that is after this.